we can just, you know, keep this moving. So, Dr. Sahabi,
Go ahead. If you don't mind introducing yourself, go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to say hello to everyone in Radio Land. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with Arnie and with my brother Stephen Robinson. Primarily, my background is that of a seeker. I seek knowledge so that in my person I could be healthier, and then those around me, like my wife and my family, can be healthier, and then the community can be healthier. So to give you a brief synopsis of my background, it actually started when I got sick. So I got sick when I was about 20 years old, and I developed an incurable disease called sarcoidosis. Some of you all may have heard of it, but it's a disease that mainly affects African Americans. It's a disease that your lungs become damaged, but all the systems and organs in your body can be attacked. This is a particular disease that killed a comedian, a very famous comedian that I'm sure most of you all have heard about. His name was Bernie Mac. And he died at 50 years old in Northwestern Hospital from 2 different pneumonias. And I'm sure some of you all have heard of this microbe that resides in the hospital called MRSA. He also got that particular microbe that caused infection in the body. And so anyway, when I was 20 years old, I got sick. I couldn't breathe. My lungs were congested. I went to the doctor. The doctor ran tests, and he said, I have bad news for you. He says that you have an incurable disease that there is no cure at all for. He said, we do have a medication called prednisone. He said, you can take it sometimes to decrease the inflammation and the pain in your lungs, but it will not heal you. And so that at that time, at 20 years old, I was already at a crossroads in my life, where I would be looking at dying at an early age. He told me that I could die between 30 and 50, which is in the next 10 to 30 years, because I was 20 years old. So at that time, I said, what he knows is what he knows, but I need to know more than that. If I am to heal myself, if I am to get out of a condition that he stated is incurable, according to the stats and the experience that he had, and that the experience that the medical institution and system had. And so it took me on a journey. The journey was to start connecting with people in my circle who were aware of doctors, who could give me more information, who could possibly save my life. And so one of my friends turned me on to a doctor at the time. His name was Dr. Roland Sidney. He was a naturopathic doctor who was a holistic doctor who had an office down on Harrison in Michigan. I went to see him. The first thing he said was, what do you eat? So in him saying that, I did not give it any extra attention, because I said, we're all eating. What does that have to do with my illness? And he started educating me. And in educating me, I had a flurry of questions. I would always have so many questions. He said, you need to come to our college. You need to come to our college, and you need to learn about the body. So in this particular time, I did go. I did go after seeing him, and what I experienced, that he would work on my body, he would work on my breathing, because also I had a trick knee that was falling out of the socket all the time, because I had got injured playing football when I was about 15 years old in the parks, in Douglas Park. And this is football without any equipment. So, these are brothers in the neighborhood. When they play football, it's like, we're not attacking the ball, we're attacking you to take you out. And so I would be walking down the street, and my knee just would give out. It would fall out of the socket. It would be excruciating pain. And I went to the doctors about that, and they said, oh, we need to do surgery. We need to take a ligament out of your knee. We need to take a ligament out of a cadaver, out of a dead person. And we need to attach this to your knee, drill a hole up through your bone, and tie it to your bone so that your knee won't fall off the socket anymore. And also, at this time, I had serious back problems. I used to be in excruciating pain. Can you imagine at 20 years old, you're already in excruciating pain? And my mother would take me to the doctor, and the doctor would say, oh, you have 3 vertebrae in your spine we need to take out. And we need to fuse your spine so that you will never be able to bend in that area. I say, well, will it be painful after? They say, oh, we can't guarantee that. Say, all we can guarantee is we can give you the surgery, and it could be 50-50, perhaps 60-40. Some people do well and some don't. So I was already in deep trouble at 20 years old. And so I was going to this doctor, and I started going to the school, learning about science, like subjects like anatomy, physiology, subjects like neuroanatomy, subjects like nutrition, biochemistry. So I was learning all these subjects, and it was a lot of learning. But also, some other friends of mine, they said, your diet is very toxic. They say you need to eat better. So these were what we would call plant-based. They had a plant-based diet. Back in the day, they would call it a vegetarian diet. I'm sure a lot of you all have heard of a plant-based diet, whereby you eat a lot of vegetables to stay healthy. This is something that President Clinton, he changed over to, he transitioned to, because he was having heart problems and other problems, and he seemed to be doing much better than that. But anyway, they told me that I need to learn a system called yoga. I had never heard of this yoga. I thought they were talking about yogurt, about the food that tastes a little bit like ice cream, but it has a little kind of sour taste to it. And they say it's good for your GI tract and good for friendly bacteria. My teacher that I studied with was 55 years old. And she was teaching down at the Lawson Y, my division, in Dearborn. And so she introduced me to doing these particular exercises, which I had never done, but also she introduced me to breathing. She says that we don't even breathe 20% of what we should be breathing. And that because we breathe so poor, that's why we're in such bad health. That is one of the main reasons. And I'm sure all of you all were aware when the COVID came, how breathing was an essential major issue, because the people who had the weakest lungs wound up on the ventilator, and only 1 out of 3 came out. It started with the elders who had the weakest breaths. So anyway, I started studying, and then she introduced me to a teacher. Well, her teacher was this Indian who was from India, that the Europeans had went and brought him here from India, because at 13 years old, he was so learned that they made him they call this word a swami. It means a teacher. They made him a teacher, and they had him to be over the entire Ganges River area. And that's a river in India where the people go, they bathe. It's supposed to be very healing water. Anyway, they brought him here to Glenview. And in Glenview, he was planted out in Glenview. And so in Glenview, this is where I had to go. It was 50 miles from here. 50 miles every day I had to go and study with him. And he taught me a lot. Now, if you know where Glenview is, there's not too many African Americans in the body. And there were only about 5 African Americans that were going out at that time. And he did an event this one time. He did an event where there were 5,000 Europeans at this event. And this event was him bringing his other teachers over in India over here to show us how advanced the body could get, how super the body could get. And they were in different ages. They were in their 80s, they were in their 70s, they were in their 90s. The youngest one was 69, and his physical was incredible. So what happened was, I studied with the Swami, I got healthier, and guess what? I cured myself from an incurable disease. I became a doctor, and after I became a doctor, I went on to start working with the community. I started with the Department of Anti-Aging because I felt that the seniors would need to learn how to get healthy because they were the ones who were most endangered with their health. And so I started on the north side in an area called Cabrini, which I'm sure most of you all have heard, even though that area has transitioned into a different area. But at that time, it was predominantly African American people living there in the housing units there, and they lived in the area. And so I started there at a church called St. Matthew. And we started teaching the elders about eating better, about breathing better, about doing these very gentle exercises, sitting in chairs. And so I then also started teaching them how to eat better by preparing some healthy foods for them. So these elders started learning, and they started changing, and they started getting healthier. And so then there was this twin tower. It was a twin tower building over on Clybourne called the Clybourne Towers. It was 16 stories. They had two buildings. And so they would have the people come up on the elevators. They would come up on the elevator to the 16th floor, and we would do our classes on the top floor. We called it the penthouse, in the room up there. And you had a panoramic view of the city, and just a beautiful view. And so we would do our exercise, and what happened, they got better. And as they got better, I told them, well, now that you're better and stronger, can we start doing some exercise on the floor? So then they started doing the exercise, and they started getting even healthier. So there was a client of mine at the time. His name was W.L. Lillard. Some people here might know of him. He was one of the clients that at 38 years old, I started teaching him about the breathing and the yoga, and he became very, very serious. And so anyway, at that time, he had a TV show, and he wanted me to bring these seniors on the TV show. And I said, WL, I said, I won't be able to bring them on the TV show unless you're going to study yoga with me, because I want you to get healthy. He said, no, I can't do that yoga. That stuff looks like impossible to do. I said, well, if I can teach the elders, then you're just 38. You have 40 years to catch up with them. So he took my word. I taught the elders for 6 months and brought them on his show. So when he saw how these elders had improved, he said, I think I can do that yoga. If they can do it, I'll give it a try. So then he started doing the yoga. He changed his diet to a plant-based diet. And now he is in his almost 90 years old. But guess what? He is the most healthiest 90-year-old you could ever want to meet, because he was one of my most serious clients and students. So after that, I started teaching on the South Side. Because the South Side, a lot of people were very much into health, and my office was down on 18th and Michigan. I created an office on 18th and Michigan. And I started going to the South Side, and I started teaching the people. And when I was learning the yoga when I was 20 years old, I also started studying Tai Chi.
I started studying karate because I knew that we needed to know self-defense in our community. We needed to know self-defense for our families. And so I started studying the Tai Chi and I started teaching it on the South Side. Commissioned me to come and teach called the Croc Center. In this center, they brought the most people who had the most serious problems with their structures and everything. They were on canes, they were on wheelchairs and on walkers. And we started teaching them. And we started getting them there. And so this has been a series of years that my training has taken me into getting 3 different PhDs. I have one in naturopathy, one in chiropractic, and I have one in applied physiology. And I have my training in studying the yoga and the Tai Chi. As in the yoga, I am a Grand Master. I have students now who are in their 60s and 70s who have taught all over the country. We have over 8,000 teachers. We're teaching over 1 million people the Kemetic yoga system, from the children to the elders, from the babies to the elders. We even have teachers in South America. And this knowledge that we've learned from this Kemetic yoga, we found out that our ancestors in Egypt were doing this 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago, they were more healthier than we are now. And they didn't even have all this modern technology. They didn't have all this modern food science. But they learned agriculture because they were living right beside the Nile River that would flood every year. And it would bring fertile soil onto the land, and it would make the land fertile for healthy vegetables. And so my experience, it covers over 55 years I've been on this journey. I like to claim it, I'm only 74 and a half, but I like to claim 75 because in this journey, as you get older, your breath is supposed to get stronger. You're supposed to get deeper. You're supposed to get longer. You're supposed to get faster. And you're supposed to be able to outbreathe the best athletes. Now, that is another story because I have been talking for a minute. So, Brother Stephen might want to.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Dr. B, go ahead. We'll let Arnold go ahead and start them off.
Well, I've just got 3, and I'm interested in learning like everyone else. In regards to some of the names of the past which I've studied or read about, follows Dr. Sebi, Dr. Plutonius, who used to have an office on Damon in Chicago, Dr. Terry Mason, who was on WBON. Philosophically, where would you say yay and nay? What I mean is where you kind of agree or disagree, and I'm not saying where it's your way or their way, but some of the similarities and where there's some difference, you might say.
Okay,
And
that's a great
then
question.
If you would explain the difference in holistic, homeopathic, and when I hear functional medicine doctor. So
Okay.
those are my 2 questions.
Oh, good question. Good question.
Okay.
Okay, starting with the first question. Dr. Sebi, when he first came here, I hosted his first meeting in Chicago.
How south there?
Also,
Yeah, I was there.
I was there. I come in that session, and I had some difference with him at that time because one of the things he was not promoting was tofu. He
Right.
was saying tofu was not good for us, and at that time I was looking at tofu, but my research had to go deeper, and in going deeper, tofu for men is not as good as tofu for women because tofu has estrogen in it because it's a soybean. And so what happened with men, if we get too much estrogen, men will get breasts. And if you get too much estrogen, it can help to disrupt your testosterone, and then it can lead you into problems with your prostate.
Yeah.
And so my research became clear as I followed Dr. Sebi. His simplicity was that you needed to have an alkaline diet. And back then, we were not aware of alkalinity versus acidity as much. We started becoming aware somewhat as they started talking about alkaline water in the last 10 years. And more people, the younger people are more informed, more aware, and more knowledgeable about this because now they have grown up in this plant-based era. They've grown up in this being exposed to the alkalinity of water and foods. And Dr. Fortone, I was the last doctor that took care of her.
Oh,
She made it to 95 years old. And so Dr. Fortone was, she was earlier in the day with my teacher, Dr. Sidney. So they were the ones that inspired Dick Gregory to get healthier and to write the book, Eat to Live, and so Back to Nature. And so they were the ones that were the pioneers back at that time. Now, Dr. Fortone was very much into detoxification, taking herbs to clean your body, to clean the toxins out, because when we eat all the time, we strain our organs, we overwork them. And what happened, when a certain amount of toxicity fills your organs up, you're going to get infection. And when you get infection, those are the kind of symptoms that we hear when the people, just like when you get a cold, that's an infection. That's an infection in your lungs. I mean, your lungs have got too much acid in there. Well, where did the acid come from? Well, did we eat a lot of cake and ice cream? Did we overindulge ourselves through the holidays? So we look at these patterns of eating, and then we look at the patterns of fasting. We say, well, some people fast, but they don't detox. So if you fast and you don't detox, it is very dangerous because you're not getting the toxins out quick enough. Your elimination is slowed down, and you can dehydrate. And really, to make a long story short, an auntie of mine, she tried to fast when she was 54 years old. And she tried to fast for a week and she died from the fasting because she didn't detox. She didn't clean the toxins out as she was not putting anything else in. And so when we look at people like, it's like when we look at the doctors, we're looking at doctors who are very knowledgeable about holistic. Those doctors were very knowledgeable. Dr. Sebi, Dr. Fortone, and you mentioned one other doctor.
Dr. Terry Mason.
Okay, now Dr. Terry Mason. Dr. Terry Mason, for me, he's a doctor that came late.
Right.
What I mean by that, he was a medical doctor. He's a doctor. He's a urologist. He deals with the prostate. So his background is focused as a specialist in the prostate. Now he was inspired by one of my patients named Prince Asiel, who had a health food restaurant called Soul Veg on 75th in Indiana. And so he kept trying to get Dr. Mason to change over to plant-based. Dr. Mason, it took him a while to change over. He didn't abruptly change like, well, I would say WL changed faster than Dr. Mason. Okay, the difference between WL and Dr. Mason, WL is almost 91. WL has more than 50 years of being a vegan, being a plant-based, and he is the most vital 91 you ever wanted to meet. Dr. Mason, he did start talking about plant-based after a while of associating with Prince Asiel, going perhaps over to Israel and seeing the people being healthier than the people were here. And so it inspired him, and then he started promoting it. He started talking about videos and YouTubes like Knives and Forks and different other videos that could help to educate our community. And so those three, I hold them in high esteem. You know, Dr. Terry Mason, for him, there's another level of growth that he has to come into. And that is the understanding of the breathing. How this breathing has a profound effect on our physiology. And this is something the entire medical community, both holistic and both conventional, don't have under cap. Now, who do have that? Who does have that is the Chinese. Now, I went to China when I was 55 years old, and I studied Tai Chi with the Chinese masters. In fact, when I was over there, I was connected with the director of the Olympics. He was over the whole Olympics because I was brought over there through an association of mine and Gary, of a brother who was trained with Dr. Martin Luther King. And when I went to China, they invited me to the White House where Mao Zedong was in Wuhan. There was a picture of W.E.B. Du Bois shaking hands with Mao Zedong in the hallway of the White House in China. So I had an opportunity to work.
Wait. So what White House you talking about? The U.S. White House?
No, the Chinese White House in
Oh,
China.
that's what they call it, the White
No,
House?
they don't call it the White House, but it's where it would be like where president.
So they're presidential state house.
The president's state house.
Okay.
Right.
Well, before you go any further, Tiny, you got a question?
Yeah. Well, question and kind of a comment in that I went to Chicago School of Naturopathy, and Dr. Sidney was my instructor. And also, I know W.L. Lillard and his wife, Denise, was my private chef, and she taught me about plant-based diets and the yoga, you know. So I think you're a wonderful person.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you've been exposed to my students.
This Tiny, he grew up over in Lawndale.
Oh, wonderful.
Right.
I grew up in
How old are you, Tiny?
I'm 79.
Oh, excellent. I grew up in Lawndale and Roosevelt and Brooklyn. There was a
Right.
store right on the corner that sold a bunch of alcohol. Right there on Roosevelt and Whipple, called Blue Ribbon at the time.
Okay.
And so it's very detrimental to our community because a lot of the people, one of my friends was 26 when he died of alcoholism, fatty liver, drinking.
Tiny, you grew up around Douglas, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Holman in 13, Holman in Kizzy, Lawndale in 16, Costner in 13, all over the west side.
Oh, you were over in my neck of the woods. I used to deliver papers when I was 12 years old, around Holman and 16th Street. And the church that my family went to was Mercy Seat around Roosevelt and Pulaski.
Okay. Yeah, I probably, I'm a little older than you, but I'm sure I probably know you if I saw you.
Probably, I graduated from the Naturopathic College in 1977.
Okay, and like I say, I went there. I guess I went there in 80. So you had just graduated.
Tiny graduated from Dartmouth, one of the first black classes to graduate from Dartmouth University up in, where is that? Not Rhode Island. What is it? New Hampshire.
Hanover, New Hampshire.
Wonderful.
But he also knew Al Raby personally.
Yeah, that was my mentor, Al Raby. And Warner Saunders used to send me $50 a month when I was in college.
Oh wow, Warren Saunders, he
BBF.
he supported Better Boys Foundation, and we worked with some youth in the neighborhood and we take them over to the Better Boys Foundation. And we worked with the young brothers in the Better Boys Foundation to improve their behavior and make them positive for the community.
Yeah. And before he worked at Better Boys Foundation, he was a teacher over at Hess on Douglas and St. Louis.
Okay, before he got into newscast. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, that was at Better Boys Foundation, yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. So,
But So did you ask any other
There was
questions?
another question. There
Go
was a
ahead, I'm
second.
sorry.
Yeah, that was not a question, right?
Touched on it, holistic, natural, natural,
Homeopathy,
homeopathy and functional
medicine.
medicine.
Okay.
And I was,
I'll elaborate
yeah,
a little
go
further.
ahead.
Okay, so when we talk about holistic, we're really talking about the organic way of living. The organic way of understanding health, the organic way of dealing with your intake of nourishment. So when we talk about holistic, we have to say, well, holistic is really more organic. So we say nowadays, we're more aware of organic. We're hearing words with organic foods. We're hearing words with organic growing. And so organic is eliminating all the chemicals that are in our growing process, eliminating all the chemicals that could cause us harm. So we know that there's a chemical, it's called glyphosate. And this chemical, I was at a seminar in River Forest at this high school called Trinity. They had a scientist come there from Canada. And he was one of the scientists that created glyphosate. And glyphosate is used in killing weeds. So Roundup was the company that was that was putting out the glyphosate to kill the weeds. So some of the weeds are in the vegetables that were growing, and they were using the glyphosate for that and the grass. But what they found out is the glyphosate destroys your GI tract. It destroys your friendly bacteria, and when it does that, that's why so many people, one of the reasons they're getting cancer of the stomach and of the colon, because the glyphosate is causing cancer. So what happened, Roundhouse, I think was owned by Monsanto, and they sold it to Bayer. Now, I think this is the Bayer in Germany that has the aspirin. I'm not sure, but can you imagine a company that's selling you aspirin? Now they're gonna make this particular chemical available so that you can get sick, so you can buy their product. Now, I'm not saying that it's the same thing, but if it is, that would not surprise me. But the glyphosate in Oak Park, there's a person we're working with. Her name is Estelle, and she deals with deep roots. You met her, both of you all met her.
She's not right now.
Okay. Well, anyway, in Oak Park, they have these signs up saying, "Keep on the grass." It means you can come on the grass, your animals can come on the grass, because they don't use glyphosate in taking care of fertilizing their grass. But we do. And so what happens, cats and dogs can get seizures if they're eating that grass that got the glyphosate in it. And so this Canadian scientist, when he came to speak at Trinity, he was saying that the glyphosate is in our food supply. He's saying that it's one of the culprits. And if you go to Home Depot or you go to Menards, any of those stores, you can buy that product right now. So for me, what does that say? It says, buyer beware. It says the same awareness that you got to have for that glyphosate, you have to have for cigarettes. Because we know cigarettes are bad, right? But the government still let the people buy it, and they say, as long as you put on the side of the cigarette, it may be dangerous to your health. That will be fine. Buyer beware. But if you're gonna sell the cigarettes, can you increase the price so we can get some money? Because we need money to pay for the sick people you're gonna make sick from the cigarette. So the glyphosate is a very dangerous chemical, and so that's why we've been in the arena of dealing with organic soil, organic vegetables. You know, we have stores like Pete. If you go to Pete, you'll see they have organic vegetables as well as conventional. But if the person don't know they have glyphosate in your vegetables, then you're going to be continually eating the conventional vegetables because they kind of both taste the same, but you don't know in the hidden chemicals what it could do to your health. So holistic is a way of looking at health from a simple way. It's a way of looking at health from an organic way, and it's a way of looking at health from taking nutrients that are natural, that doesn't have chemicals, and then we look at taking supplements to help also that are organic also. So we say, well, we go into functional medicine. Well, what is functional medicine? Functional medicine is medical doctors who have now been trained on nutrition. And so what we see is the majority of problems that people have are nutritional deficiencies. They're nutritional. But just like myself, I had nutritional deficiencies that when I had developed the sarcoidosis, I had to learn about chemistry. So in the college I was in, they taught us about supplements. They taught us about eating better, taking supplements. And so it afforded me the knowledge that functional medicine doctors have. For me, they're Johnny come lately. Because in our school, we already learned about nutrition when I was in school. In fact, we were telling people about aloe vera 50 years ago. We were telling people about turmeric 50 years ago. So now the people are just hearing about turmeric. This is only in the last 10 years. They're hearing aloe vera and everything. This is only in the last 10 years. So we talk about functional medicine. We say the naturopathic doctors, we were stumped down into functional science from organic chemistry.
Now, vitamin D, briefly. The whole discussion about vitamin D, I heard black people need, or people in general need to take vitamin D, how much? And what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, that's a great question. So vitamin D, and particularly D3,
D3,
is a particular vitamin D. Now, what the research had showed, it showed that we needed vitamin D to assimilate calcium, and that we get some vitamin D from the sun. But what they didn't tell, what they did not say, is vitamin D was in supplements we were recommending 50 years ago, but that the amount of the D was too low. 50 years ago was too low. They were talking about 400 IUs. Now they speak of 5,000 IUs. And so that's international units. That's what the IU stands for. But the problem is, if you get vitamin D3, but you don't get K2, which is another supplement they're just finding out about, that you need for the calcium to be brought out of the bones out of the blood into the bones. Because if you don't assimilate the calcium properly, you will get kidney stones from the calcium.
right.
And so now it should be a conversation about D3K2. And then there are supplements that have D3 and K2 in them. So what we're saying is we're constantly in a catch-up mode. We're trying to be healthy, but we're so far behind. And then when we look at other countries like Canada, the people there, they have universal health care. So what we find is that when you have universal health care, it forces the government to try to keep the people more healthy because the government got to pay the bill. Here, what we're seeing is we're seeing a transition. We're heading from the conventional to the plant-based to the organic to the holistic. That's where we're heading. But we're also heading in the direction to learn more about our breath and our breathing, because COVID was a scare to us. And we're still having the effects of COVID. But what are we having now? We have RSV. We're talking about 4 different respiratory illnesses that can take your life. We got pneumonia, we got the flu, we got the RSV, we got COVID, and all of them, you're needing a vaccination. Well, guess what? A lot of African Americans say, I'm not gonna take that stuff. I've been hearing it, do this, that, the other to you. I'm not gonna take the vaccination. But do you need to know how to breathe strong and healthy to prevent the microbes like the athletes do?
Right.
Because the athletes, when the microbes came and they tested positive, they were not having symptoms because their lungs were so strong. So that's what we work on, making the lungs stronger so the people can get healthier. And regardless of the microbes coming, we have a greater chance to prevent the microbes from taking our life.
So, Dr. B, what types of exercise do you teach people?
Well, I mainly focus on what we call the internal exercise.
The internal exercises deal more with the breath, and it deals more with gentle movement. Now, when yoga, when you see somebody twist it all up like a pretzel, it doesn't look gentle. Have you ever tried yoga, Brother Stephen? So there's
Somewhat
kind of
so.
Okay, all right. Well,
I wouldn't say I was.
depending on the teacher, because teachers have different levels of knowledge. Now, being a Grand Master, I've taught those in the wheelchairs all the way to advanced students. Okay, I've taught the young, I've taught the old, and so these particular systems, they focus on the breathing more so, yoga and Tai Chi.
Right.
And on the south side at the Kroc Center, they commissioned me to come there, and my first classes were classes where people just come in and breathe. The gentle movements, they're sitting in chairs, the movements are so gentle. But from that breathing, we can strengthen their heart. We can strengthen their organs just from the breathing. That was my first class at the Kroc Center. The Kroc Center was a facility that was created by Ray Kroc, who created the McDonald Empire.
Right.
They left $9 billion, him and his wife, to build out these centers, 33 of them throughout the United States in our community. And it's for all types of activities for the family. They commissioned me to come teach the seniors the Tai Chi, Qigong, and the breathing. And our classes were 70 and 80 people in the classes. It was a great big old space. And so I have on my website that I had took down, I have on there some seniors giving their testimony about how much better they felt doing our classes, and these were seniors who were on canes, who now walk like 30-year-olds.
And it's all equated to practice of yoga
and Tai Chi. But more so the practice of the breathing.
Okay.
The breathing is something that's a whole science in itself that we don't know anything about, and we must be trained in that, as well as we must train our children in that, because we have a problem called dyslexia in our schools. Our children have a problem, and they put them in special ed. But there was a doctor, his name was Dr. Paul Dennison, a psychologist, and he came up with his theory that the reason we have dyslexia is that we did not develop the proper training of our brain when we were toddlers. He said that the children who did not get the opportunity to crawl and were put in strollers too quick did not develop left and right brain training, that the brain must be stimulated by the movement of your eyes, and that the movement of your eyes causes you to see your letters better. And so he developed a whole system with the movement of the eyes and with certain exercise that could bring a child out of dyslexia. This was over 30 years ago. And so we need these systems in our schools because we have students, so many are going into special ed because they can't learn as quick as the other students. But there is hope because I know these technologies. And here's the thing. I'm gonna take you into the next question. I'm gonna leave with this. It is what we don't know that makes us a damaged people. It is what we don't know. But if we seek, we must seek into other cultures. So I seeked into the European culture. They have knowledges that they've been helping their people. I've seeked into the Chinese culture. I've been to China. They have knowledge. They're helping their people. I seek the knowledge of the Indians. They have the knowledge to help their people. And so we must now have all of that knowledge if we are truly to help our people, from the babies to the elders. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, you spoke on the breathing. The breathing affects the learning. You kind of touched on that. Maybe we should talk. You want to go a little bit into the foods, or
you go into the foods? Okay. Yeah. So what are we eating? What are we eating? Well, we're eating like everybody else, but what are we eating?
Well, as African Americans, we have what we consider a slave diet. 400 years, we grew up eating the worst of foods from the kitchen table and eating greens, eating beans, eating vegetables, eating sweet potatoes. Now, if we look at our ancestors 400 years ago, or if we look at our ancestors 100 years ago, they were working in fields. Their bodies were stronger, and they could get away with it somewhat better. But we're not working in fields now. So we're eating some of the same foods, but here's the thing. One of the main foods we're eating is foods that cause diabetes.
Yeah.
We found out that in Austin community, 91%
Wow.
of the people have diabetes. So what does diabetes bring? Well, first of all, it brings a deterioration of your pancreas. Well, what could that lead to? Well, that could lead to cancer of the pancreas. It could lead to, if your pancreas is not working, you're not breaking down the carbs that you're eating. If you're not breaking them down, what's going to happen? Your circulation is going to break down. Your nerves are going to break down. Your bones are going to break down. Your legs are going to get cut off. Your eyes are going to go blind, and you're going to be on dialysis. So we say if 91% of the people in Austin have diabetes, we're saying 91% of the people that can happen to. So,
just clarification on that information Dr. just disclosed. If you live on Madison Street North, Laramie Avenue South, Laramie Avenue East, Harrison Street or the Expressway South, and Central Avenue West. Now, just think, that's only a radius of, as you look in terms of geographically, Madison to the Expressway, Laramie to Central, population of 6,864 people. With ages children under 10, 13%, ages 10 to 64, 71%, elderly over 65, 15%. Ethnicity, white, 1%, Black, African American, 91%, which the doctor is speaking of, Hispanic or Latino, 7%. Diabetes, 91%. Heart disease at 53. Low life expectancy at 96 years of age. So that's devastating when you expand it, when in his case he's at all Austin. But that's just a small tract or zip code in Austin. That's not, but at their rate, you can pretty much say proportionally it's running about the same.
it's epidemic.
It's
An
epidemic.
epidemic, like
So-
COVID.
COVID some people think it's gone, but diabetes is just as worse,
Worse, even worse.
even worse.
So then we have to look at, well, when we talk about that, I have to give you all the background of my family. My grandfather had a farm that had 300 acres in Louisiana. This was back when I was young. We would go down there every other summer. And one of the foods that he grew was pecans. He had these pecans, they were about 2 inches. They were soft shell. When you crack them, they cracked easy. And the meat was sweet and tender. And so my grandmother would make pecan pie. Now, if you know how sweet pecan pie is, imagine my grandfather was eating them all the time. At 67 years old, he got diabetes and lost a leg. By the time he was 68, he had lost both legs up to his hip. And he was sitting in a wheelchair for 20 years with no legs. Now, my grandfather was a strong, vital man. He had 12 children, and they took care of 300 acres. They fed the high school with food and everything. but this was the early introduction of Cairo syrup.
Mhm.
The syrup is used for making pecan pie.
Mhm.
So imagine his children, my aunties, they all grew up eating the pecan pies and all of that. And so now my aunties started getting diabetes. One died at 52, they had to cut her toes off. Another one died at 55, they cut her leg off. My mother, they cut her leg off. My brother, they cut his leg off. So we're looking at 3 different generations that the diabetes has taken, and we're not even talking about now. So now when we talk about now, it is stated that, and this was 5 years ago, that 14 million people a year are going to be getting diabetes. Now, if African Americans are getting this much now, how much more will we get in the future? Well, we need to know about what we're eating. Because here's what has happened that most of us don't know. We don't know that they changed stuff. They created the first GMO food over 40 years ago, and it was wheat. Wheat was the first food. And they created this because the scientists, the agriculture scientists, saw that in India, the people were starting to starve because the soil was so depleted that they could not grow wheat. So what they did, the agriculture scientists, they created a hybrid. And the hybrid was a GMO. And what the hybrid did, it was sturdy enough to grow the wheat, but this hybrid created 10 times the amount of gluten. Now, if a person don't know what gluten is like glue. It's like starchy glue. And when you eat this gluten, what it does, it binds in your colon, it prevents you from absorbing nutrients, and it makes your body gain weight.
Yeah.
So if we look at the last 40 years, we see, well, how many more African American and other people are gaining weight? We say they're gaining weight because they're eating 10 times the amount of gluten that they were eating 40 years ago, that they were not gaining the weight.
Right.
So this is when they start promoting wheat. They start taking us off white bread, because I remember back in the day, we had butternut.
Right.
We had these breads, they were white, but the wheat was being promoted. We switched over to the wheat, and the wheat is in the spaghetti, it's in the pasta, it's in the bread, it's in the pastries. And if we're eating 10 times the amount of gluten, our colon is going to bind, and it's not going to absorb the nutrients, and that will give us more of that coming into the pancreas.
Right.
So the pancreas is going to take 10 times the hit.
I tell you one thing, Dr. Hafiz, what I've noticed, when I was in grade school, I never seen so many, I might have been 1 or 2 chubby kids in the classroom. But you look at the classrooms for the last 10, 20, 15 years, every kid in there look chubby.
Because of the food, the gluten. But guess what? In River Forest, which is just beyond Oak Park, those people told that jewel, we don't want no more gluten foods. 3,500 foods in the aisle was changed to gluten-free. 3,500 foods in the aisle in the Jewels in River Forest.
Wow.
Now you go to that Jewels right there on Ridgeland and Madison, and they got the regular foods that you see everywhere else. They don't have the gluten deficient foods in River Forest. So now who lives in River Forest? Who lives in Austin?
Right.
When we talk about where we live, and then we talk about the foods, the people have to become educated so that they can get the better foods so it can make them healthier. And so who's going to teach the people? I am. Why is that? Because I'm from the neighborhood. I grew up in the neighborhood, and everybody that comes to me as patients, everybody that comes to me as students, I educate, and they get healthier. I have one person right now, he's one of my students, like WL, who is studying yoga. I'm going to be bringing him on to start teaching the young people the yoga. He's lost over 70 pounds in the last year. My neighbor, when we were little, her name is Wanda. This is on Whipple Street. She was always overweight, 45 pounds overweight, and she never was too healthy. She called me one day at 70 years old. She said, Dr. Hafiz,
She said, I'm afraid I'm gonna be in the wheelchair because my back, I have so much pain in my back and my legs are giving out and I'm on a cane. I said, come to me. She came to me and I put her into the breathing program. She's lost 45 pounds, can outbreathe any athlete you bring me. You bring me LeBron James and she will outbreathe LeBron James. She's 72 years old and she can run up and down the stairs like a 30-year-old. I have to bring her on your show one day. She does 14,000 breaths in a session. That is an hour and a half. She can run 14,000 breaths faster than LeBron James. And she don't run one step. And she's lost 45 pounds.
So let's talk about a few terms, then we're gonna ask a few questions, and I gotta get somebody else. So break down what GMO stands for.
GMO stands for, it's a term. It's generated organisms. It's like it's been engineered. These foods are engineered. They are genetically engineered. So it's genetic modified.
Right.
They're modified organisms. So what they do is they create hybrids of seeds. And these seeds, then they use it for more production of food. That's what the agriculture scientists, they're about production of food more than the healthier food. So we go back to organic. That's why we gotta be talking about organic. Because organic, we're dealing with the original seed that doesn't have all that gluten in it. So there was a doctor, he wrote a book called Wheat Belly. And this book, if you look it up, Wheat Belly, he's wrote 2 books now. He tells about the history of how we were converted from the regular wheat to this hybrid wheat, the GMO wheat, the genetic modified wheat that is causing more gluten in our bodies because it produces 10 times the amount of gluten, which means it makes them 10 times the amount of money. And so our people are eating all this extra gluten and they're getting more diabetes because of it.
Well, a lot of our kids wake up to oatmeal, and then many of our people is out at these restaurants for Chinese food. So what would you say in regards to rice, which is a grain, and wild rice or brown rice or quinoa, or just what's your comments as it relates to those particular
That's a great question.
items?
That's a great question. So when we look at rice, we have to look at rice in terms of on 3 levels. The first level, we need carbs. We do need carbs. So if you ask me, would I eat rice and would I eat wheat bread with the gluten? I would say I would eat the rice. The wheat bread with the gluten, I would not. Or I would eat very little of that because I'm knowing it's gonna cause disruption in my digestive system. It's gonna destroy my friendly bacteria. It's gonna prevent me from digesting and eliminating properly, which means it's really like causing constipation. And when you're holding on to more and more, your body has to expand. Now, when you talk about brown rice, that was the first vegetarian diet, the first plant-based meal that I had when I had the sarcoidosis. The meal that I had, it was a piece of wheat bread, it was brown rice, broccoli, zucchini, and avocado. That was the first vegetarian meal I had with my friends who were vegetarian. 2 hours later, I was empty. I said, I'm hungry again. They say that's how digestion's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be feeling full all night. If you're feeling full, you haven't even digested the food. Now you're gonna come into the next morning and you're gonna eat some bacon and eggs and some wheat bread that's modified as the GMO wheat bread that's gonna put all that gluten in you, and now it's gonna slow you down. So by the time you eat lunch, you ate some more gluten with the wheat bread, and then the hamburger bread, and then dinner you ate some more, and you followed up with some wheat bread pastries, some wheat bread cakes and pies, and
and you expect the body to be able to deal with this. So then when we talk about this, we say, okay, well, brown rice, they have different kind of brown rice. They have short grain, which is the first brown rice I ever had when I was 20. Then they have a long grain. And then they have an Indian brown rice called basmati. Basmati, the Indians eat. This rice is a delicious rice. It costs more than your regular rice, though. I call it the Rolls Royce rice.
How about K-Mood?
How
How
about
about K-Mood?
K-Mood is good. K-Mood is good. K-Mood is good. Now, when we talk about when you would talk about the other grain, quinoa, quinoa is a grain that has protein and carbs. And that's why more people are now eating quinoa rather than just eating brown rice or rather than just eating couscous, which some of us might have heard of couscous. But my diet is global. I eat foods from the Arab culture. I eat foods from the Indian culture, from the Chinese culture, from the Hispanic culture, and from the European culture, from Europe. And so all that's and then the Mediterranean culture. So all of these cultures have food. So when we start combining the best of all these foods from all these cultures, we start having an appetite and an entree that is absolutely scrumptious. So we have to expose our people beyond the soul food diet. We have to expose them to these most delicious foods from other cultures that have taken me into restaurants around the world. When I was in China, I was in 5-star restaurants in China. They had foods you would never believe they could have, and some vegetables that were so scrumptious. When I go over on Devon in the Indian community, they have vegetarian restaurants over there. They have some foods that are so scrumptious, you would not believe it. I've connected with Indian doctors, and I've connected with Arab doctors. And so their eating is a higher level. We have to move to a higher level if we're going to become a healthy society, a healthy community again. It starts with understanding the difference in the foods.
I know you ain't eating food from Scotland like the Mac of
No,
Donald.
no, scratch that. I'm not. Mediterranean. No. Stay with Mediterranean now. Stay with Mediterranean.
So real quick, we gotta talk about food deserts, because a lot of people don't really understand what that really means. If you ask a young person, they'll probably say, well, that means we don't have foods in our area. That's not what it means. So either or.
Okay, all right. So from my understanding, food deserts is a lack of healthy food.
Exactly.
And what we're looking at is lack of stores. But really, it's even in the stores that's in our community, if they have unhealthy food, like I'm speaking about the Jewels over there in Ridgeland and Madison that have the gluten wheat over there, and the people are still getting unhealthy food. That's not a desert, but the food they're getting is not the best of the food, so they're gonna have health challenges, health issues. So
we're not even talking about the Leamingtons that's on Madison.
We're not talking about
I
that.
just gave the data, and that's in that area, right?
That's the only grocery store in that 80 block area.
In that zone I just read, whether it's the statistics we just talked about.
Yes,
91%.
91% diabetes.
Diabetes.
Right. So what we're gonna see in our community, we're gonna see more kidney dialysis places. We're gonna see more people with legs cut off. We're gonna see more people in wheelchairs because of that. And so there is an emergency here. There is a crisis that we're sitting with. So how do we address that? How do we address this crisis we're in? Well, how do we address COVID? The government came in, and the government supported the people getting the vaccinations and the people protecting themselves and the people in the medical system addressing that. Well, in this particular case, this is a little bit more delicate than that, because the medical community, they address crises when you're sick. Okay, well, diabetes is a sickness, but they don't address the diet as much. They address it some. They are now talking about, especially with Dr. Mason, they're talking about eliminating your drinks, your soft drinks.
because they're full of sugar.
Mhm.
So when we talk about diabetes, we can't just put it all on the wheat. We have to
Right.
talk about the sugar. We have to talk about the corn syrup. So we say, back in the day, when I was little, we didn't have all these pops. We had Kool-Aid. We take a pack of Kool-Aid, my mother put some water in it, put sugar in it, and it tasted good, but we had Kool-Aid. But now, the adaptability, see, we adapt so easy. The adaptability, we got so many type of pops or soda pops
Right.
with a lot of corn syrup and a lot of sugar. So we have to now start saying, well, we must now teach the youth. We must start with the youth. We must teach them and teach them why they have to change. And then the youth are very, very smart because the youth know how to use computers. It's hard to learn computers. And us elders, I'm 74, so I'm an elder. Us elders, us seniors, we depend on these youth to teach us computers. So now we must teach the youth so the youth can teach us about the foods, about eating better. We must teach the youth so the youth can become organic and learn how to grow the foods so the foods can be healthier. Because the youth in the Gen X, they know about alcohol. I meet so many younger African American young people. They know about alkaline foods. They know about healthier eating. And so I see them in the classes, in the yoga classes, and I see them in the, when I go to different gardens and what have you, and different meetings. In fact, one of my associates, Dr. Muhammad, they just did a thing here 2 weeks ago. It was a nutritional conference at the University of Illinois addressing the inequity, dealing with foods, dealing with African Americans getting access to healthy foods. Now, she was one of those that created the first food bus that would come to the seniors, the senior citizen building.
Mm-hmm.
She would bring the food bus and make the food available, the healthy organic food, for the seniors to come right downstairs and get the food. So we have to support more of that. And when Brahman was in, Emmanuel, that was something he was starting to support. We have to have gardens, vegetarian gardens, organic gardens coming up in our community. We spoke about this last week. I was with you all, and we were saying how we're going to have to teach the youth how to grow the food and how to help rescue their grandparents, because their grandparents are the ones most endangered with the diabetes.
Well, in the remaining 5 minutes, so go
The
ahead.
time
Well,
just went by that
Yeah,
quick.
well, no, we got more than 5 minutes, but I got someone else that got to speak about something.
Oh, I see.
But I wanted to just reach out, and if anyone had any other questions, unless you want to expound on what type of water to drink and what type of breathing we should be doing.
Okay.
And then if anyone else has questions right after that, just kind of tell us those things,
Okay.
and then we'll let the audience.
All right. So now we are starting to buy water. We're starting to buy water at the stores and what have you. But what we're finding out is the containers that the water is in. Like this water right here, this container, when you hear this crack like that, that particle is breaking loose from the plastic into the water. It's leaching. And in Canada, this bottle is banned. In Canada, they found out that this can help cause cancer in women's breasts from this bottle. So we got more people drinking water from these small water bottles, and then we test water. There are different kinds of water. There are waters that are more acidic and more waters that are more alkaline. And there's a water they sell at the store called Smart Water. That water is more acidic. That water is a bad water.
Ain't nothing smart
And there's
about it.
nothing smart, but they put smart on it. They're sludge. They put more smart on it, and they make the people think they're gonna get smart drinking water when actually it's gonna make them sick. And so then also the water we drink.
Water you're speaking of?
Yes, yes. The water we drink. This water here is a water. You see those bubbles in there?
Hold
Those
it down.
bubbles.
Hold it
The
down.
camera's right here.
Oh,
You
I'm
can
sorry.
see it on.
There's bubbles in this water. You see the bubbles coming up. That's hydrogen coming up to the top of the water. So the water will have hydrogen and oxygen.
This particular water, the technology of it came from Japan. When America military bombed the Japanese country, they bombed the country and they killed millions of people. And what happened, the radiation from the atomic bomb, it destroyed their water system. The water was radiated and the land was radiated. Millions of people were dying, millions were in the hospital, and the scientists in Japan had to go around and learn about water so that they could restore the water system. And so they went around the world and they found 7 places, the Himalayas, one of them, that had water that was so healthy, it made the people healthy, so the people could walk up the mountains. So when you go to Himalayas, you see the 80s and 90-year-olds walking up the mountains because the water keeps flushing their systems and making them more healthy. So the Japanese came back and they created a water machine that could create this water. And so they started restoring the health of their people. At first, this water was in the hospital, it was medicine water. And when the people would come in, they would give the people the water, and then they created 7 different kinds of waters. So one of the water they created, it was an acidic water, and you could use this water to kill bacteria. So they used this water on a person, it was the Japanese, they were gonna cut his toes off. He had diabetes, they was gonna cut his toes off, and so he started drinking this water, and he started putting the acidic water, soaking his feet in it. In 22 days, his feet started healing. In 22 days, in 45 days, he could walk on his feet. He didn't have to get his toes cut off. Because again, this water flushes the toxins out of your cells quicker. What happens, this water comes to a machine, then it comes to your sink, and then, well, it comes from the sink through the machine, and when it comes out, it has broken the cells of this water down in the molecular structure. That's why you see those bubbles. It breaks it down, and then when it reassembles, the molecules are smaller. So they can get into the cells, clean out the cells, and when they do, it gives you more oxygen. So when you have more oxygen, you can be healthy having more oxygen, just like a person in a fire.
Right.
They come out the fire, they put oxygen on. So this is the water we drink because it cleans out the toxins out of our bodies. It gives us oxygen. That's why they call this the high alkaline water. Now, when we talk about the regular water, what we had been exposed to was purified water. But purified water does not deal with what's called the oxidative reduction potential. And the oxidative reduction potential means that the water has to have an ability to get the toxins out of the body. It has to, when we're hearing about oxidative, we're starting to hear about that. Something is oxidative, so that means it's spoiled quicker. And so that means if it's oxidative, it's going to rust quicker, like rust, oxidizing. So this other water, it doesn't keep your cells as healthy in oxygen as the alkaline water. So we have a machine. At our place, we got a machine on every floor of our building, so that we don't have to go from one floor to the other to get the water. We got a machine on
this machine isn't anywhere close to reverse osmosis.
No, in fact, what happens with reverse osmosis, it leaches calcium out of the body. This is what they didn't even find out earlier. So reverse osmosis, we had some patients, their bones were getting weaker. They were getting porous because reverse osmosis was pulling the calcium out of the body.
Somebody, Kim says, well, how are they able to sell bad water?
The same way they're able to sell cigarettes.
Good cigarettes and bad cigarettes.
Good cigarettes and bad cigarettes. So the thing is, buyer beware. And what I'm saying is we must be educated to beware. So to be educated, we must come into classes. My whole mission is teaching. Well, why is that? That's because I'm 25 years later that I'm supposed to be dead, but I'm not. I'm here, I'm more vital than when I was 20. And so God has given me this ability to have this breath again. I prayed to God when I had the sarcoidosis. I said, God, if you just give me this breath again, I'll be your advocate. I'll teach the people about the breath. And God, in his own way, he was saying, oh yeah, okay, well, I'm gonna show you some breath. And I'm gonna see how dedicated you are to teaching the people.
So I have a good question for you. Is it age we died from, or is it from from the lack of ability to sustain life as far as our bodily functions and feeding it and giving it nutrition.
The ability to not sustain life, because here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Well, say that
Okay,
again. now.
okay.
So,
It's because of we're not getting the proper nutrients to sustain life.
At
So
the
here's the thing.
molecular level.
It's chemical. It's electrical and it's chemical.
so we're
And
electric people.
we're electric people.
But that's at the molecule
It's at the
level.
molecular level.
Right,
It's at the molecular level. And we can go deeper in. I would love to go deeper in with you all and break it down in the mitochondria and how it all works and talk about that with omega-3, 6, and 9 and RNA and DNA. I would love to have more conversations, but I know time is of the essence.
I plan on being around till at least 150.
Well, now here's the thing. Here's the thing, Brother Arnold. Here's the thing. We must take into account what's around us. We must take into account the air. The air is getting more toxic. That's why we got global warming. But guess what? They created an air machine that can give you the inside air like the outside without the toxins that they created for the space station.
Of course.
And there's people out there got the best air because they can't bring one of them spaceships to the medical clinic. Talking about we got to break camp and take you to the clinic because you're sick. Oh, that's good. That's good. But, okay, but there's another big one for the whole room. And we use that at our center. And what it does, it kills microbes in the room. Even if the microbe was on a door handle, it'll kill the microbes in cracks and crevices. It kills the COVID. It kills RSV. It kills all these microbes. So at Triton College, they have that technology at Triton College. So you come into the building, it's gonna kill microbes on your body.
Okay, let's go into some questions real quick from the audience. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Feel free to go
Yes.
ahead.
Barry,
Hi, I don't know your name. Say, the man who was just
Hafiz.
Dr.
Hafiz.
Hafiz. Can you put his contact info and name in the chat?
Eric, no problem.
Okay, thanks. And a couple of questions for you. The machine you use for creating water with the bubbles in it, what kind of machine is it?
It's a Conga machine. It's called Enagic. Conga machine.
I didn't get the.
It's a machine that came into this country.
It's a what machine?
It's called Conga. The machine is called Enagic. It's a Conga machine. It's a machine that you connect it to your faucet, and it changes the water out of your faucet into what we call super water. We call it super.
Great. And secondly, I think the whole message and what you're about is fabulous. It seems to me it would be a godsend to be able to spread your message and have more people be aware of it. And one possibility I want to mention to you, and we can talk about it offline, is that you become part of the story of Peacebrook. And Peacebrook is a new narrative. Peacebrook is one word like Oak Brook.
Okay.
It's one word. It's a new narrative for the west side of Chicago and wherever you are, where people help each other, have a thriving community, and grassroots governing councils. And we have one of those councils is the Healthy Living Council. And the Healthy Living Council is what I'm hearing in your message.
Yeah.
So
we're Barry, I know, but we're gonna update you, okay, after the call, okay? Steve, myself, and Deanna, we'll talk to you about it to do and get that communication and information out.
Okay, was that the only question, Barry?
We're working on that for you, Barry.
fabulous. Yes, what I do have one more question. I find
I find that that kind of eating and living is inexpensive compared to conventional,
Yes.
because the pills and all the medical procedures and all the consequences on your life. It's, and I'm
Right.
wondering what you would say to people. That's what I would say.
It's like saying, put the $5 premium gas in your Mercedes, or put the leaded gas in there, and then you got to put a new engine and a new head.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Stephen, that's
But
great.
you pay $3 on the regular gas.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that
right.
analogy.
Somebody said, Barbara says, where are your classes? You know, she's interested.
Well, here's the thing. Now, I was teaching on the south side, and I was wanting to set something up on the west side. I was talking to some people that were in Maywood, but we have to have certain floors. We have to have wooden floors because concrete floors pull energy out of your body. And so I'm going to be talking to Arnold and Steve, and I'll be talking to people in the Austin community because right now I was really being very low key. I was being very low key in Austin.
Too late.
I wasn't trying to do too much. Now I do have some people in Austin who I started kind of reaching out for and what have you, because I have a garden. I have a garden in Austin, and all my clients, I give them food from the garden. They gotta leave with some food, organic food from my garden when they leave from seeing me. And so I was doing that.
Go ahead, wait a minute. Go ahead. Who is that talking?
This is Cora.
Miss Williams, Miss Cora Williams.
Yes. What a wonderful show. Thank you, Steve, for having my doctor on.
Oh, Miss
I
Williams.
tell you, when I go to see my doctor and his lovely wife, I need with bags with whole food on them, that he have packed with stuff from his garden.
Fresh, poured it fresh.
And also water, gallons of water.
Yes, the super water.
And at first he make me drink as much as I can drink whilst I'm sitting there. And it's just wonderful. And
Right.
this is what, see, I go way back because I worked many years for Dr. Fulton. And he said that he was her doctor. He was also her doctor. Took very good care of her
Yeah,
until she passed away.
yeah.
So, one thing I can say about Dr. Hoppe, he practiced what he preached,
Well, thank you, Miss Williams.
you know. And there are times that I'm in his backyard, and there are people coming in and out with bags of, I don't know, but I know they're vegetables.
Yeah,
Because I know in my bag, there's a little bit of everything.
right. There you go.
And not only I got ill, I had a stroke, and on my porch, doctor had left vegetables and grape juice on my porch.
Yes, homemade grape juice. Yeah,
Homemade grape juice
organic.
on my porch.
Yeah,
Water, whatever.
yes, and you recovered. You recovered pretty good.
Yes. And I tell you, the breathing, there's so much. I do plan some seminars in the garden on Laramie, and everyone will be invited to come because he got to turn up the energy.
That's right.
Got to turn up the
You gotta
energy.
turn the energy up.
Got
That's
to turn
right.
the energy up,
In the community.
you
In the
know.
people's health. That's right.
So,
Well, we're gonna we're gonna work it with you. We're gonna work it with you.
This is a surprise, Miss Williams. You call.
She told me, she said, Mike, put me on. He gonna, when he see me or hear me, he gonna be
That was a great
utterly
surprise.
surprised. Any other questions from the audience?
Come on, Miss Jacobs, I know you got one.
Okay, I guess not.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Estelle.
Sir, why don't you talk more about the garden and more about the food, what you cook, who you share it with, how you grow it, and about all the people that we're trying to get to share that experience with us and learn gardening with us.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that we're looking at is we're looking at growing the most healthy food now. We've been having a garden for over 10 years now, and you know that we've been connecting with you with Deep Roots, which is an organization that is about promoting growing the healthiest food in the deepest beds with the best particular nutrients, the best soil, and the best ways to grow the food. And so we've been doing that, and we've been having a very abundant harvest. And that's why we can share so much food, because we grow so much food. But the problem is, when we grow the food, it looks so beautiful, we don't even want to pull it. We don't even want to pull the food, say the food looks so beautiful, but we go ahead and pull it. And say, we're sorry, we got to take you out. But this is for a good cause.
You got to be eaten.
You got to be eaten.
I know females for that.
And so we've been utilizing this particular technology, growing technology, with these particular higher beds than what most people are used to growing. And so we know that it's time to share this with the public more so. So we've been engaging here lately, and we've had a blessing at Humana, the Medicare insurance company, is now seeing the need to be preventive. They're seeing the need to support our communities and to help us get into healthier ways of being healthy with the food. And so they've committed themselves to now start helping us become healthier by committing to us growing gardens and then supporting that, and starting to have events in our community where we can reach out to our community and start educating our community, because we are in a crisis. And also in preparing food healthier, so that food is supposed to have three principles. It's supposed to taste delicious. It's supposed to be healthy, and it's supposed to be medicine for our bodies. So as when Stephen and when Arnold was talking about being healthy, Arnold said he wanted to live to 150. Well, WL is like that too. WL said he wanted to live 150. Well, myself, I'll settle for 140 or 145. 150, that's a stretch, but again, I got the air machine going, I got the fresh water going, I got the big breath going, and I got sustainable, the most healthier foods going. So I feel that if anybody gonna make it to 150, I should be the first one to make it there. But I want us all to think like that. I don't just want Arnold and Stephen and yourself and WL to think like that. I want us to think that God wants us to be healthier for a longer period of time, because we're supposed to be an advanced civilization. And when we think about it, we think about the people of the old who lived, they said 900 years in the Bible. They said that 60 that was the average to live to be 70 years old. Well, you have people getting diabetes now, getting their legs cut off in the 30s and the 40s. We have the crises of these problems coming at us. We got more people. When we had the COVID, there were first people that were older that were dying. Then there were people who were younger were starting to die in the hospitals. So it says we need to have the knowledge. We need to get the education. So my thing at this point is that Dr. Hoppy is only one person. My interest right now is starting to teach
a team of students. We have students that have learned the yoga, a team of students that we can come into the school system and start teaching these young people about health. Come into the school system, come into the churches, come into the senior centers, the senior buildings, and do what I did on the north side with Cabrini. When we were over there, those people were getting healthier. And what's so ironic, the sister who was connected with the Department of Aging, her name was Miss Young. Now imagine a name like that. And as I would be coming and teaching the classes, she would be coordinated with Malcolm X. And we started an adult education program. So we must do this again. We must get support of the congressmen and the aldermen and the state representatives to support the initiative that we are in a crisis. Our health is in a crisis. And we must be educated.
Okay. Well, we're not gonna let you go because I gotta introduce my next guest. She's gonna chime in via Zoom, and that's Kim Franklin. Would you mind coming on, Kim, and presenting what you have to say?
Oh, yes. Good evening, everyone. How are you? My name is Kim Franklin. I am the interim executive director for the Peacemakers Coalition. And we have recently launched the Positive Peace campaign. And we have a crazy aggressive goal to get the city of Chicago stapled as a positive peace city. Now, when I say that, people just like have this shocked look on their face, like this is impossible. But we crazy enough to believe that it is possible. You know, in the 1980s, the city of Chicago was stapled as a safe haven city. So why can't it be stapled as a positive peace city? And so even when the president who's on the line, President Allen and Vice President Willie Stovall brought the concept, I didn't buy into it right away because I was like, well, how do you fathom peace? And the president said, well, you have to become the peace that you want to see, because we've tried to stop the violence. That doesn't seem to be working. Put down the guns. So now we have to come from within. And I was like, wow. He was like, we've seen the face of violence, but now we want to create the face of peace. So I thought this is such a cool concept. So we did some research and we found out that there was an organization in Europe, doctor, like you were saying, a lot of good stuff is in Europe. And they have identified 8 components that contributes to peaceful countries. And they identify with these 8 components the top 10 countries in the world, the top 10 most peaceful countries in the world. And so they will be flying here. They have one office in the United States. It's in New York. So they will be flying here and facilitating a 2-day workshop. And we're starting with 3 areas on the west side, and that's Lawndale, Austin, and Humboldt. And these workshops, it's free. Normally, when they work with corporations, these workshops are valued at $25,000, but they're coming here to do it with us absolutely free of charge. And everyone who attends will receive a Global Positive Peace Ambassador certification. So what does all of that mean? What that means is, if you look at the city of Chicago, there's nearly 3 million people in the city of Chicago. And on average, and I say this because it pertains to lives and just speaking in numbers, there are around 2,400 shootings a year or something like that. But then you ask yourself the question, Why is the city of Chicago plastered all over the news as the worst city in Chicago, in the United States? Why are people afraid to come here? We know where the pockets of crime are. And if you measure 2,400, shootings or violence, which is too high of a number at any point in time, but 2,400 up against 3 million people, that is less than, not even 0.1%. So I think we have a fighting chance of helping the city of Chicago become a positive peace city. And some of the ways that we do that is through going on the blocks with beautification. Within these 8 modules, we'll learn that there's other factors that contribute to us not being peaceful. There's inequality, injustice. There are some other things that they've looked at. And I actually had the opportunity to see a demonstration that they did in Mexico where they had the cartel, the pastor, and it was the cartel, the pastor, and a political official all sitting together talking about peace. And I thought, this is amazing. We need some of that in Chicago. And so, and the benefits that we're anticipating will happen is that the community will have increased levels of unity and safety, and that the level of hope will be raised. The education will be improved amongst our students. Social engagement within the community will become healthier, and the economic value will increase if we incorporate these 8 components. Now, this may not be anything new to some people, but for me, it was articulated in a way that I had not seen it before. And I also think that this whole concept of just positive peace, the word positive takes it to another level for me. I think there may be other peaceful organizations, and this is something that can be infiltrated into organizations that's already doing the great work that is being done in the community. We begin to have conversations, and those organizations want to engage. They want to learn about this concept of positive peace. So we're just excited about it, and we wanted to share it with everyone else.
That's wonderful.
Sounds like
So-
a plan.
So let me say something. So Tuesday and Wednesday from 9 to 5 at Hope Church, we're going to have the workshop on peace. And let me say also that the Peacemakers Coalition was started over at Northwest Austin Council, and Steve was one of the originals of it. So it's like chickens coming home to roost.
And where's it gonna be? Repeat that again?
That's
Right.
Hope Church was at 5900 West Iowa. Is that
Yeah.
right, Kim?
Yes,
was-
Iowa Hayfield. It will be Tuesday and Wednesday, April 9th and 10th.
And you will get a certification for being a peace ambassador from this. That's global.
Okay.
You have to make both sessions?
Yes. Or I had a few people with a few conflict schedules, so I have to reach out to the facilitator to see how that works. So
Okay.
I'll be reaching out. We'll be communicating tomorrow.
Okay, that would be great. All right.
Any other
Thank you.
questions pertaining to the peace? What is training? The training at Hope Church, the Pastor Epton, Steve Epton's church. Hope
Mm.
on
Of which I'm a
Mayfield.
member. I'm a Sunday school teacher there and a deaconess there.
Okay. There you go. Okay, any other questions pertaining to that? If not, we're gonna,
No, I just make an announcement before we get out of here.
We got about 5 minutes.
Dr. Habib, if you want any last comments, and then we usually go around and ask our podcast callers to just share with us any comments before we get off the air, and leave them some words of wisdom.
Okay, well, one of the areas that I had worked in was dealing with, peaceful intervention with, county jail, the county jail. Years ago, I worked in the county jail, and I worked in the chapel, and we taught yoga. We taught yoga to the inmates. And what happened is that when I first went there, they would fight all the time. They get locked up in red tag. And so I would tell them that if you're gonna have to engage with somebody where you're gonna have to get violence, you're gonna have to tell them in the name of love, I'm gonna have to knock you out. And so just the statement of that would cause a reaction where it would be funny. They would say, it would break the hostility. And so then what happened is that my classes started filling up. And pretty soon we were out of the chapel. We were in the hallways.
Yeah.
And the people stopped being locked up in red tag, and the guards saying, what you telling them people? They're not getting locked up in red tag now. I was telling them that they have to bring love into the circle, but then in my classes, we taught breathing. So the breathing changed the brain wave. And when it changes the brain wave becomes more peaceful. The mind becomes more peaceful. And that was one of the things why they say take 10 breaths when you get ready to go off on somebody. Take 10 long breaths. It's a quick way to put yourself in check from the aggression that's upon you. But this seminar that Sister Kim spoke about, you need to give that information again, because more people need to know about this, so that we can spread this out to the community, because the community definitely needs to be brought into a more harmonious place. There's some work that I'm doing with the criminal justice and equality and not ex-offenders, but ex-drug users. And there's a lot of violence. They talk about related deaths, opiate-related deaths that comes from violence. So we definitely need to have all the tools in the toolbox to help our community. So.
Absolutely.
Well, Attorney General Merrick Garland just gave the city of Chicago, I think, about $80 million for violence prevention, which is something, Steve, we need to look at to assess that money in whatever way we can. But, I mean, balance is balance. So whatever some of us think, well,
How we can curb it,
what
prevent it.
you're speaking of, how you can lessen the violence.
Right, lessen the violence, right.
So just, if no one saw that on the news.
I just want to give an update also. Clerk of City.
Yeah, Cook County
Clerk of Karen Yarborough passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear
I'd
that.
like to say on behalf of our
Oh,
family,
wow.
and the extended community,
Oh, sorry to
our
hear that.
prayers go to our family and our condolences,
Absolutely.
So we all knew and loved her, and she's been in this building on many occasions, in her public service outreach. Just a couple months ago, we had a property after death forum here. We're off of
I was downtown in February. I ran into her in the clerk's office, and but it was kind of apparent that she was ill, but she just taken gravely ill in the last few days and weeks, and
gone public on the airwaves, so
right.
let's get the word out, and we'll see if any arrangements whatsoever and how we can express our prayers and condolences.
Deepest sympathies, right?
Sympathy.
Yeah. And we lost a good soldier. See, this is why the health is so important,
Yeah.
because we have those in very special places that serve in our community. We gotta keep them healthy because they're at risk just like the rest of us.
Right. Well, you know, you met Brother CB, right? His wife works directly with her.
Oh, wow. My brother was sitting next to you with the red hood.
Which is, his wife was my wife's cousin.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, we really have to start bringing the education on how to be well. Very, very important. We've just lost another good soldier. And I feel it as a calling myself as an advocate to be like blowing the trumpet in the wilderness. We must be educated. We must train the youth so that they can bring up the next generation so we can change the trajectory of where we're at. When we're hearing these statistics, even of the diabetes, it could be heart problems, it could be all these problems that could be alleviated if we come back to the original state of where our ancestors were, where they were living well in Kemet with agriculture being at the highest level or organic. We must come back into that level. They were into the breath and everything. Back then, they were studying the yoga and everything 5,000 years ago. Oh yeah, because they was the most advanced society back then. So we must become advanced in the future like they were.
You gotta think about it. They didn't have no ventilators. They didn't have no
none of that.
defibrillators.
Didn't have
Bring the
none of
heart back.
That's right.
They had to work with natural things.
That's right.
No heavy equipment.
No heavy
all
equipment.
they
They
had,
built
look,
the pyramid.
All
so
they
had
had
big
was like
knowledge.
the album cover, the earth, the wind,
That's
and some fire,
That's right.
which was
That's
the
right.
sun.
That's right.
Well,
That's
you
right.
know, I did take training in West Suburban Hospital, Tai Chi.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we gotta bring it. See, now I said, we gotta bring it into the
Let me ask
community
this
now.
question. Let me ask the audience, what do you guys, let's Zoom audience, what do you guys think about talking about health issues more often than anything? Because we talk mostly about public safety and little politics here and there, but, you know, the root is the body. You know, we can make the community safe, but if the body ain't safe from itself, you know,
We're not here.
Yeah. And health is life. Life.
Yes, life.
Right.
That's his life.
we can always give a segment. I had a relatively young man tell me the other day, he said, Steve, we need to talk about the prostate and prostate
Absolutely.
issues.
We
And
need to talk about that. I can come back on and talk about that.
Almost definitely.
Very
Because there are a lot of people that,
Yes, a lot of brothers be getting the prostate issue. And they don't have to have them. In fact, I've treated a lot of patients with the prostate and educated a lot on how not to get it. We have to teach that to the young people too, how not to get the problem.
It's all in the diet.
It's all in the diet. All in the diet.
And I'm a prostate cancer survivor. I've been I had my surgery in 2013, so 11 years.
Oh, wonderful.
And they say 1 out of 2 men will get it.
Yes, yes. Congratulations.
wow.
Yes, sir.
50%. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna go around the room and see if anybody got anything they wanna add to the end of the show. I'll start with the people on the Zoom. Well, how about you? Well, you already just touched base. Tiny, you wanna conclude real quick with anything?
Yep. Right. Again, it's always good to be around like-minded people. And man, Dr. Hape, God bless you. And I look forward to meeting you. And everybody, please, if you can, come to our Peace Awareness training Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, all right.
Give the address again.
Can't miss it. It's on Mayfield and Iowa. Hope Church.
I also put it in the chat. I put it in the chat as well.
Thank you.
There you go.
Please give the
All
time
right, how
again.
about you?
Give the time again.
From 9 to 5.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
All right,
And you
and next,
must register.
next anything you want to add? We're going to close it of the show. Anything that we need to know? Anything you'd like to add? Real quick.
Who did you ask?
Twin. Annette.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to know the time.
Okay. That's fine, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
All right, how about you, Beard? Go ahead.
Um, well, Steve, you asked about health again. I think health is vital. Without that, what have you got? And I think the most effective way of doing it is have it be part of the Peacebrook Healthy Living Council, so that the more we market a new story for the West Side, the more everything that's good is part of that, the more we can connect healthy living with a healthy community.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Galvanizing the collaborative to help the people get access to the comprehensive approach to health.
Right, because somebody in Peacebrook can make connections to for someone who needs the extra healthy living, the nutritional, or all
Yeah.
kinds. Yeah.
Right. How about you, Estelle? Anything in conclusion for today's
Oh, and
show?
hello, Estelle. I haven't seen you in ages.
You're muted, Estelle.
I know, I unmuted it. I think we need to do more and more talking about health that is simple and inspiring and clear, but scientific as well, so that young people know more about how their bodies work, because that will keep them on track longer for the rest of their lives. And just keep teaching more of their friends and teaching their families about food is medicine. And that's one of the slogans that the functional medicine doctor movement uses all the time, and they need to think about that a lot more. But we need more concrete examples of how food is medicine in ways that it's fun. And that's what I'm working on now. That's my latest project with the Deep Roots project, gardening, teaching of gardening and healthy food gardening. That's what I'm working on, is ways to communicate that to young people in the kind of in the clarity and in the way their minds work and their interests. Just talk about all the science and the health and the food as medicine in their terms. I think that's what's needed the most. So that's what I want to work on and try to get Dr. Happy to help bring it to as many people in this area as possible.
Now, that's the plan.
And is your information in the chat?
No, actually, I didn't add it.
Could you
I'll
put that
add
in?
it right.
Because I'm
I'll add it
interested in
right now.
gardening also.
Okay, go ahead. She's gonna add it now.
I'm adding it right now.
That'd be great. I
Thank
think
you.
in order to reach the youth, I think you really got to look at, if you're planting gardens and fruits and vegetables, you got to look at the youth the same way. You got to catch them when they're little seedlings.
Right.
You know, you got to catch them young.
Yeah.
Because by the time they get up there and they can start eating that European food from Scotland, the McDonald's and the Mickey of D's.
That's right.
You know, it's a little bit too, it's a little bit too
kind of
low.
late.
Yeah.
Think of all that good eating in Genesis.
So, if anybody, people can contact me if they want to. I put my stuff into the chat. I'm about to send it. They can contact me about growing their own food. That's what we focus on, getting people's own gardens going. So,
Okay, great.
I added it just now. Oh, wait, I added it and there's a typo in it. Let me do it again.
No problem. We're gonna move on to the next person. Who's on iPhone?
Steve, can I add something?
Sure.
So Estelle just said that we need an effective marketing campaign, for example, using the slogan, food is medicine. And what Peacebrook is a brand like a Nike, but it's a brand that says we are a community where people help each other, have a thriving community, and grassroots governing councils. And so we just keep that that the healthy living is all part of being in Peacebrook. So the whole thing becomes a brand. The food part, the safety part, the learning part, the health, every part.
Hence the
Thanks,
word
everybody.
group. All right, who's on iPhone? Do you have anything to add to the
iPhone. Yeah, this Anthony Bingham on the iPhone. Hey,
No,
I'm glad I didn't miss this meeting tonight. It was very informative, and I'm be looking forward to more of these. And we need these classes as far as our health, because without our health, we're not worth anything. So keep it going.
We got you in the loop.
Stay
Yeah.
tuned.
How about you, Kim, in conclusion?
I just thank you all for the opportunity, and I am truly looking forward for Positive Peace to infiltrate all of the various works that we're doing in the communities. And there's only one quick thing I wanted to talk about as it pertains to the community, as it pertains to the music and how the music have infiltrated and impacted our community. That's a whole nother segment within itself.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you, Shaka P, anything you have in conclusion?
Other than just saying, I wish everyone to be well, and I wish that we open our hearts and our minds to learning the knowledge that God has for us to take care of His temple. Our bodies is His temple, and we've been given the opportunity and the responsibility, and that responsibility is honorable, and it's integrity, and it's responsibility. And if we take on those principles and we teach it to our children, then our children will grow up healthier and live longer than us. But we have to start somewhere. Where we must start is we must start rescuing the elders. The elders are in the greatest danger. So we must start the classes. So we must interface with the churches, the pastors, and we must bring life back to our community from the garden onward, and from the breath, what we call the sacred breath of God. We must bring the breath. The breath must get stronger in the elders.
Right.
So that's where the life force comes from, along with the proper eating, to have greater breath, greater internal vitality, greater vitality to the structure, to the strength of the body, so that it can be healthy and we can give thanks to God and gratitude to God every day for that.
Amen. I like that. How about you, Miss Cora? In conclusion.
Well, I'm just so grateful that we are adding my great doctor program. And hopefully that the next time he will be able to talk about energy.
Yes, that would be a wonderful.
Oh, we can do this all day, all time.
That'd be a wonderful conversation when we're going to talk about the energy. We got to talk about that.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Arnold, anything?
Well, I just say, family, just stay tuned. Many of us have come together with some of the discussion and comments back and forth that's been discussed tonight. And I like to do things in order with the rollout of what we're planning. So I'm taking in some of the things I've heard tonight, and I'll apply further in discussion with Dr. Habib and some others in a collaborative effort. So we hear you. We intend to roll up our sleeves, get the work to deal with some of the statistics and data that was both discussed earlier. And that was just a small not even a mile radius in Austin. So,
but that's just, when you say 100% of the people in anything is sick, that's not a good thing.
pricey.
You talking 90,
Right.
91 is 100%.
That's the pricey.
And so no matter what others think of our community, numbers don't lie. The data is just there. And so with that in mind, we have to roll up our sleeves, go to work, not so much as to talk about it, but actually put a plan forth and present it to where it needs to be and who it needs to be presented to, because all of us will benefit from that collaborative effort. And it can't be about I and me, but it's about all of us, because in that area, I live in that area. And I can tell you that when I just think about it, not as one business, Leamington, that was mentioned. I don't know how many liquor stores, I know at least 8. Then fast food restaurants, chicken, barbecue, you name it. But it all adds up to the data that's been discussed here. So if you're not solution to the problem, you're part of the problem. And again, we're working and we're meeting, and at such time, we will make a public announcement as to what we've discussed. I don't want to be talking as much as planned and put people on edge. But what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
You already doing that, man. You doing that now.
I like to build up some interest. Some of us tonight, we kind of touched on it, but I understand. Come on.
Don't say too much.
You know, I don't want to talk too much. I just want to say, okay, we hear you, we feel you. Now we plan to do something about it.
Right.
And at such time, there'll be a public announcement, and who all will be involved in that effort. Again, it's about us and not me, or I'm here on the south or west or the north. Hey, I told somebody last week, they talking about being in the south. If you're south of the Canadian border, you in the south.
That's right.
Farther in the United States.
That's right.
So that's all I have to
If you south
say.
of the North Pole.
Well,
If you south of Mars. Everybody got some southern blood in them. But in conclusion, let me finish this and roll this out. I want to say, because I'm listening to Dr. Habib and I'm thinking, he talks about the temple, and I want to put this analogy in front of you. If you were a brick mason and you had to build your temple, you would want to build your temple with the best mortar and the best bricks you could, from the foundation up all the way up to what they call the parapet, the temple part of it. So you think of that, you wouldn't want to put just mud in there to use for your mortar. You want the best, the strongest mortar that you could. And to support your bricks and have your temple as sturdy and strong and as a fortress that it should be.
That's right.
For all outside elements.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say in conclusion, as DeAndre always says, we always have room here at the table. Feel free to come down from the hours of 6 to 8 every Sunday. And we love to have you on. Welcome to Northwest Austin Council. Good night, y'all.
Good night. Thank you. Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Ms. Williams.
God bless everybody.
God bless.
All right, y'all.
Right.
Good night.
All right, y'all.
Wonderful. Thank you all for inviting me.
All right,
Good night,
Corey.
Good night.